So yeah, lots to talk about, of course. Um, we'll start with some of the good news. So first good news is, hey, we're finding an office. We should get something by April 1st. We're looking at two different spots. Ideally, the one I think I am leaning the most towards, but they have to come down significantly on their price, is going to be off Sierra College in Douglas. So very bright, open, lots of natural light, windows everywhere, two giant meeting rooms. So we can have one for meetings and just kind of like a co-working space. We can have another for, as our large recording room or whatever else. And there's just a lot of other spaces available throughout the spot. So that's in Roseville. And then the other one is off of Sunrise in Douglas. It's a really nice commercial condo park. It's a bit bigger, but it's not as much natural light. So I'm not the most excited about it, but we'll kind of see which one bends the most on getting that office space. So the purpose of getting it, one, is I think it's nice to be able to really foster the culture in person. Plus, for a lot of us, being able to be in person and learn from each other and get motivated every day. Plus, I know a lot of us are really putting focus into just different social media content, blogs, video blogs, to YouTube, to podcasts. It'll be really nice to have a recording room. It's also going to be really nice to be able to meet with clients in our office and do different client events and brokerage get-togethers just in the office and have a space that's always available for us. So with that, I also do think we're going to grow a lot faster and attract people who fit our culture. I'm also very cautious and conscious of, that I don't want it to ever be a place where it's annoying to go in the office because so-and-so complains every time they're in there and all they do is complain, and someone else comes in and just talks everyone's ear off and no one can get anything done. Because that's what I've seen before. So I'll be very protective of that. I'm choosing one that's more in Roseville because we do have quite a few of you more in the Folsom area, or, that just general, 20, 30-minute drive from Roseville area. And so there are a lot more places for sale in those areas that are more reasonably priced. So towards the end of the year, we're probably going to be looking to purchase those properties. Depending on what happens throughout the year, we may put together a syndication and an offering. I am about to get my license. It's called a Series 65, so we can do that. But yeah, that'll be an option, so that those of you in Folsom and, that, Carmichael-ish area will have a place to go to that's a little bit closer. Yeah, so that's the exciting news about the office. The not so exciting news, or just want to talk about, one, some legal stuff, and then two, the buyer broker agreement. So a lot of you had heard on the news and in an email towards the end of last week, that the National Association of Realtors, who have been telling us for months and months and months that they did not fix commissions, that they decided to settle at over $400 million and, a ton of other terms. So it's funny to me because of how much they kept saying, oh, this is not accurate. This is, we did not fix commissions and blah, blah, blah. So essentially, when you're explaining this to any of your clients, which I have been getting some people asking about it, is just, hey, listen, it's illegal nationally and federally to fix commissions. They're supposed to always be negotiable. The lawsuits are coming up because they're saying that, one, NAR and all of the state associations aren't making it an option for a seller to choose that the buyer pay for their own agent's commission. I think that's not exactly true, and it's just the way that the terminology in the contract and the listing agreement. However, what I didn't really realize was most of our MLSs are actually owned by the local associations. I just knew that they were privately owned companies. I didn't realize all of our local associations kind of team up and own the MLSs. And our MLS has a rule that if I put 2.5% of the commissions being paid to a buyer's agent, If I get 20 offers, I cannot counter the offers and ask them to reduce their commission to make their offer more competitive, which is very interesting to me because that was a violation. So I do think that there was a really good chance that they are guilty of, pretty much fixing commissions, probably unintentionally, but still they should have intentionally thought about that. The other issue that people have run into is a lot of these big brokerages, and many of you came from some that taught never reduce your commission, never take a discount. Problem is when you really push that, and you get a listing signed and you agree to pay the buyer's agent 2.5%, and then you go in your office and you talk about it before it goes on the market. Next thing you know, someone, Sally Long John, which is a realtor in our area, comes and says, "Hey, I've got a buyer for this. Let's do an off-market deal." Next thing you know, she's making 2.5%, and you really pushed that they accept the offer because the agent. It really, really seems like you're fixing commissions. And I think that is one of the main lawsuits that's coming up with a lot of these brokerages is the dual agency. Because remember, dual agency isn't just, you represent both sides, because that is dual agency, but the broker is also representing both sides. So the thing is, in the news, you're hearing a lot of realtors talking amongst each other, and their biggest fear is they think buyers are just going to start going straight to the listing agent. I think that has always been an issue with some buyers because some buyers think in their head, oh, they're going to give me a better deal. Here's the thing at the end of the day. The end of the day, the seller is the only one who's agreed to pay me. And the way that you read some of the obligations is in most states, most states don't even allow dual agency. So, but in our state, we do. At the end of the day, I owe a little bit more fiduciary responsibility to the seller. So one, you can't say that I'm going to give equal representation. Yes, Vanessa.
Sorry, that was my 2-year-old. Keep going.
Oh, nice. But my other thing is with our errors and omissions insurance, and this is most companies, you figure most of the big brokerages have already deal with a ton of lawsuits, right? Now with this, they're dealing with even more lawsuits, which means their total errors and omissions insurance has really gone up. I know quite a few agents who have just left Keller Williams, and they said, yeah, their contribution to the errors and omissions dramatically increased. So the thing with dual agency is the more dual agency transactions we have, the higher our errors and omissions insurance will increase every year because it becomes riskier. You can't, there's just more room for error because it's too easy for one side to say, hey, you favored them over me. I told you something and you probably told them, which is why blah, blah, blah. So I would not be afraid of buyers going to listing agents. The thing is right now with rates, in 2021, the average interest rate was, I think, 2.87. So you figure interest rates as of today, the average interest rate is 6.98. Most clients that I'm quoting are over 7%, unless if I get really creative with how I price it out, or I take a big hit in my compensation and offer some promotion. But for the most part, it's pretty high. I mean, that's more than a double increase, more than a 2 times increase in interest rates. So how are a lot of people closing deals in this market when there's less purchases, there's less things going on, it's a lot harder to buy? Well, it's the agents who go and they educate their clients. It's the agents who go and talk to people in their sphere of influence and say, yeah, interest rates have doubled, and you would think prices would drop. But generally speaking, if you look at houses that are renovated, values have still gone up year over year at, anywhere from 6 to 7% in the state of California. So is it a good time to buy? Personally, I think yes, as long as you can handle that monthly payment and so many other things. So we are getting buyers. I am closing a lot of deals because of education like that. And I know a lot of you are as well. So it's the same thing with this lawsuit. The more you can educate people, the better you're going to be. And the more likely the other agents who aren't able to educate or don't take the time to will either leave the industry or never close deals. right? If you want to be negative about this whole lawsuit thing, great. You'll never close deals. Just flat out going to say that. So the awesome thing about this whole thing is that they are now making it mandatory, which is funny to me that they're going to even try to make it mandatory, but mandatory that we use the buyer broker agreement. Here's the amazing thing about it. Over the last couple months, so many of us have had clients have gotten new clients, especially the online leads, who have asked to see a house. We show them a house, and the next thing you know, they have another agent who writes the offer or is out showing them houses, but that agent just wasn't available to show them this one house. The great thing about this buyer broker agreement is I can now say, hey, this is now a requirement. There's a couple things I want to talk to you about this buyer broker agreement. One, it was because of this lawsuit saying that we were fixing commissions. It's not something that you should worry about, but what's nice is, it at least goes over some of the initial disclosures that you're going to see in a purchase agreement. So you can all see this, right? Anyone? Be great. Someone could say yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I can see it.
Okay, so most of the time when you get your client, they don't look at any of these disclosures. They haven't signed anything until they sign their purchase agreement. Now, I personally haven't really had this happen, but I know a lot of people who have, where their client, the second they get these contracts for their first offer, they get cold feet and freak out because it's a lot to read and they have to sign it quickly and it's too much to understand. So sending them something like this, I feel like it's an easy start to the whole process, right? There's nothing that they're really committing to, but they're starting to understand what the contracts look like and how they kind of read. And they do make sense, right? So here's the first one. It's just talking about my responsibilities to sellers, to buyers, to fair and honest dealings, and so on and so forth. It goes on and explains fair housing and discrimination advisory, which is also very important because you get a lot of people who say, oh, are people going to judge me because I'm a single individual purchasing a house? Well, they're technically not allowed to, and sellers are, when they sign this, they are saying that they will not violate fair housing laws. We go down to possible, right? You can read a lot of these wire fraud. It's important. This one, I didn't put it on my notes and I did forget. There is an issue. There's an AI scam going on around. If you get scam calls and you talk to them, they're recording your voice and then using AI to match your voice and try to call your client somehow. I don't know how that's working, and saying, hey, it's Cameron, your real estate agent. I need you to wire me this much money. I'm going to send you the link. It's for purchasing a house. So just tell your clients, I will never ask for a wire. Whenever we do, a lot of title companies and escrow companies are switching how they accept the earnest money deposit, and most of them are trying not to do wires. They're setting up just different ways. So just something to be aware of, everyone. Okay, buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. We are going to go over this in so much detail, as well as how to present this tomorrow in tomorrow's training. For today, I just want to briefly go over it. Of course, this is someone else, but actually I don't even know what that name is. Anyway, the main thing is I can pick location, I can pick counties, I can pick cities, I can pick a specific address, I can do a price range. I could do following specific properties only, right? If I got a new client and it was the internet, I'm going to put counties. And if you read this box here, no pre-existing buyer representation and compensation agreements. So buyer acknowledges the buyer has not entered into a representation agreement with another broker and has no obligation to pay compensation to any other broker arising out of the acquisition of the property identified in, boom. So you get an online lead. You're the Elenas, they pay for Zillow leads. They get a lead in Sacramento. They put Sacramento and Placer County. They say, hey, because of this new lawsuit, it is now our requirement. I have to put this. I have to have you sign this. This agreement. It's just going to say that you're paying me 2 to 2.5%, whatever you want to put, and for these counties. But hey, keep in mind that it does say that you have not entered into an agreement with another broker. Is that true? Because that way people will say one of two things if they are working with another agent. Oh, I didn't know you had to sign this. I've never had to sign this before. Yeah, it's a new law. If you have worked with a broker in the past, they may not be aware of it now, which is kind of scary because this is like national news. I mean, seriously, this is national news that this is now a requirement. And so if you talk to a broker recently and they did not require this, I'd be worried that they are not part of an association, which means they don't follow certain ethics. They don't have to follow certain ethical laws. Just to warn you. But you might get someone that finally admits, oh, I do have an agent, so I can't sign this because I already committed to them. And then you don't have to waste your time, right? Because that's the problem that we've dealt with a lot. You can put 2%, you can put 2.5%. It depends, right? So if I know, and we're going to talk more about this, but right, I can put my percentage in here. I can put a specific dollar amount. The amazing thing that you are able to do that I don't think in all of my mastermind groups or different, talks that I've heard, I haven't heard anyone really mention this, which I don't understand why you wouldn't. So in other terms, right? Because a lot of us get new clients, they're thinking, oh my gosh, all they're going to see is I'm signing an agreement that I'm paying 2%. Does that mean if I close? They're saying that it doesn't mean if I close, but I don't understand half this contract. If I put 2% and then I come down here and I type this, and this is what I'm going to tell every single client. Listen, I have to have you sign this. I'm going to put 2%, but really, or 2.5. I'm always going to type in here, buyer's agent Cameron Ripley, to check the box in the residential purchase agreement under section G3, stating that the seller is responsible for, and I meant to put for the obligations in this buyer broker agreement. That way, even though I am required to have you sign this now, I'm stating to you that it is my responsibility. You can even type, it is the responsibility of the buyer's agent to put it in the contract. So if I fail to, that's on me. And this contract becomes pretty much null and void. I think it's going to be a lot easier to get a client to understand that. Now, if let's say we are going up against a house and the house is saying, hey, my seller is refusing to pay the compensation in that agreement, then I just say, hey, we're going to do a new agreement. I'm going to pull up a net sheet and I'm going to basically have the seller pay all of the escrow fees, all of the transfer taxes, home warranties. I'm going to get it so that it adds up to 2% of the purchase price. That way, you're not coming out of pocket any more than you normally would have. Does that make sense to everyone? This is how we're going to educate our clients and keep them excited about buying, but then just be able to provide solutions. At the same time, this is how you should be talking to your sellers. Listen, so Chase Chow, of course, not on the call, but Chase is getting his first listing, or just they're doing some pictures today. The guy said, hey, I heard in this lawsuit, I don't have to pay the buyer's agent. Is that true? Because that'd be really nice. I get to keep an extra 2%. He said, listen, think about it like this. If you're a buyer and 2 years ago, interest rates were 2.87, and you're now hearing interest rates are 7%, do you think you're more or less excited to buy? Less. Okay. Do you think that when you were first buying your house, or even the second time you bought a house, that you could put 3% down minimum or 5% to pay 2% in closing costs and 2% towards the buyer's agent, right? That would be a whopping, and you can do the math right there. No. So to be honest, for you, what you're going to net is what you're going to net. So let's say we get an offer and they say, hey, my client is willing to pay my commission, but we want you to pay all of these other closing costs. I'm going to run basically I'm going to run a net sheet and I'm going to find out how much are you going to net from this sale. Same thing if I get someone who says, hey, we want you to pay for the buyer's agent commission, but we'll split all of these other closing costs. Maybe you'll net more. This is true this whole last year when people started asking for credits towards temporary rate buy downs. I might get someone who offers $10,000 more than my list price, but if they're also asking for a $10,000 credit, I'm actually netting less than if they would have just given me my list price with no credit. Why? Because commissions are a percentage, and their transfer taxes are a percentage. There's a lot of things that are percentages, and so I'm netting less. Once again, this is just how we educate our sellers, because I have a seller, so I have a listing coming up maybe in the next couple of weeks, because of course they found a ton of mold in the house. but they asked the same thing. And I just said, think about it. And I explained it. And they said, makes total sense, right? They said, listen, average days on market, I think you're going to see those go up. And I think you're going to see prices drop, values drop for houses that are really pushing that they're not, they refuse to pay the buyer's agent commission. And it's not because buyers agents are not showing the house. It's because what buyer is going to be excited about a house that is not fully renovated and that you barely put any money into, and they have to pay all of that extra money and extra fees. Does that make sense to everyone? You're going to be hearing on the news that price values are dropping, I think, because there's going to be more houses coming on the market that are not taken care of, because you're going to get, people pass away, people get divorces, people get all kinds of things, right? People foreclose on their houses. Usually those are all the houses that need a lot more work. And so you factor in this whole, higher interest rates. You're factoring in the fact that if you have amazing credit score, you actually get penalized a little bit on your loan because that was a great decision someone made. I don't even know actually if that's still correct. But also people are having to look at, I may have to pay for my buyer's agent commission. I don't want this house. I'm not paying all of this and doing all of that for a house that someone didn't put an ounce of effort into maintaining or keeping up with, modern updates. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. I think you're still going to see values go up for houses that have been renovated because, right, people would rather have something new, and that's, the trend on social media. You could do a bunch of videos of houses that are dilapidated and you're not going to get any views. You do a bunch of videos of houses that are nice and renovated and you'll get a lot of views. So, right, the trend is renovated houses sell for much more. Okay. Anyone have any questions about the buyer broker agreement or any of the lawsuit as of right now? We will talk way more in depth tomorrow too.
Cameron, a pretty basic question. A lot of people on this call might already know this, but you always say 2% or 2.5% was put on the contract. Why not 3%?
Yeah, so it's totally up to you. I will say there are certain things that are common for certain areas. So to be honest, where a lot of these big lawsuits are coming up, it is more common that total commissions are around 6%. And so that's why you hear on the news 6% is going away. And I had someone say, hey, so we don't have to pay 6% anymore. And I said, you're right, you have to pay 5% now. Like, it doesn't mean commissions are going away. Just, I think in the bigger cities, people were really pushing 6%. And so they were saying 3% to the buyer's agent and 3% to the seller's agent firm. Yeah, the seller's agent. I think that because a lot of the details of these lawsuits really have not come out yet. And I think you're going to see a lot of them where people negotiated 6% commission and then they sold it in their office. And so it really seemed like they were fixing commissions. Or they did, if you've ever gone to P-Car, they do this, tour of new listings that come on the market. And sometimes you can tour properties that have not come out yet, but will come out tomorrow. And so if you're showing people an off-market deal and they come and present you an offer and you say, well, I'm paying you 3%, it just seems like you're fixing it, right? Because you're not actually letting it go on the market where it could get competitive and people could negotiate it. You're pushing them to accept this off-market deal at this really high commission. So in our area, it is very common to see 2.5%. I think, and this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow, I think as we're starting to submit offers on houses that they have multiple offers, it's going to behoove most of you to come in at 2%. Maybe if you really want to be dead set on getting paid 2.5%, have your buyer pay the other half, but negotiate a small credit or change some of the other terms in the contracts. The buyer's not really coming out of pocket that extra 0.5%, if that makes sense. But I do think in our area, we're going to start seeing commissions change a little bit I'd probably see, representing a buyer, maybe 2%. The thing is there's a lot of things that'll be up in the air. One of the biggest things for me that I want to see is how many people leave the industry, because I've already been seeing so many people leave the industry. When I went to look at office spaces, I think I've looked at 10 different office spaces for us. Only 2 were not former real estate companies that left, and it's been abandoned for like, all of them were abandoned, or not abandoned, but vacant for over a year. So, and that means people left in 2023. I guess there was one that was 2022 when rates hadn't even hit 7% like they are today. So I think more people are going to leave the industry, which just means there's more room for people who are more professional.
Hey, Cameron, I have a question.
Yeah.
I apologize if you said this. I don't remember when. So this is supposed to go into effect July, potentially. At what point do you want us to start using the buyer broker agreement with our clients?
Now, because you just get into just get into practice of it. I mean, honestly, and I this is I explained this yesterday. I got a new client and I just said, hey, so just so you know, you probably have heard some things on the news about the National Association of Realtors and some, big lawsuit because they have been claimed fixing commissions, which this is exactly what I said, which they kept telling us is not true. And then next thing you know, I'm hearing that they're settling at over $400 million. It has not been confirmed, right? It's good for us to get in the practice of this. So honestly, this could still go out the window if they counter back with something else, and it could be, I don't know. So my main thing that with that is we're now being required to have this buyer broker agreement saying that you're going to pay my commission, but I'm going to type in there that I will always put in the offer that the seller pay that commission. It's not something that you really need to worry about, because at the end of the day, people aren't going to buy if they have to pay this extra 2%, and sellers have to sell, right? There's going to be people, of course, and we've all who have shown properties recently experienced this, where we show a property, it's been on the market for 2 months, and we say, and the listing agent says, by the way, my seller is firm on their price. And I'm like, then take the listing off the market, because no one is going to come and give you your list price when you've been on the market for 2 months. So just take it off and enjoy your life. Stop wasting everyone else's time. We've all experienced that. We're all going to continue to experience that. But there's still going to be people that have to sell and that call you and say, hey, we need to sell this. This happened to Chase recently. My sellers are getting relocated for this killer job. Just bring me an offer. I don't care what it is. Just bring me an offer. That's literally what she said. So there's plenty of opportunities for, just so that buyers don't have to pay that. If we got into a market where it got super competitive again, then it's going to be very important to work with a lender who can help figure it out and get more creative with how do we factor this in, either to the loan or as a credit back. And we'll have plenty of conversations in the future about that, but I don't want to focus on that now. Did that answer your question, Chanel?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. And you're going to talk about it more tomorrow in detail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about strategies with this more tomorrow. But yes, we should be practicing it now. And honestly, I've had 2 conversations with 2 new clients about that, because it is spring and everyone has all of a sudden decided they want to buy, which is great. But yeah, so I think this is going to be a good spring, even though the news is the most negative thing on the planet and incorrect. So, okay, moving on though, for the sake of this meeting, real quick. So other legal things that we're running into, okay, flips. There are new disclosures coming out. I would start talking with any of your flipper clients about this, and I would even look up what are going to be the new requirements. And it drives me crazy when they say, hey, we're going to be requiring this addendum because it's going to protect you. And then they say, but it's not required, or we're not creating it until mid-July. I'm like, okay, well, if it protects me, can I have it now? But you can look up, there is a new flipper addendum, and thank you for Chanel. She's kind of had an experience where her buyer bought a house from a flipper, found out it was his first flip, somehow found out that there may have been undisclosed to them tons and tons of pot plants, and there may be mold all on the walls. The buyer's having health problems. The buyer's definitely talking about taking legal action. Chanel did what she should and calls me. We talk about it. She's advised exactly what I said. She calls the California Association of Realtors. They said, hey, good job. What you said is perfect. You don't want to tell people not to look into something. You want to recommend that they give multiple quotes. You want to tell them to look into, hey, what are the options? Get as much facts up front as you can. And then you want to tell them, this was not disclosed to us. You need to go after that person. I am not an attorney. I think you need to go shop around to multiple attorneys. The California Association of Realtors, their legal team said not to recommend an attorney. So I did not know that. They said that it's easy for them to come and blame you if the attorney didn't represent them properly or wanted to charge too much. So just say shop around for real estate attorneys. There's lots of them out there. Find one that you like, but I really think you should go after them because that should have been disclosed. And if it was disclosed up front, you would have reasonably gotten an inspection. Once again, I'm not an attorney, but I think that that's what an attorney is going to tell you. So Chanel did a great job with that. For anyone who has flippers sellers, you need to be very clear with them, right? They need to be disclosing what permits were and were not pulled. They need, I'm pretty sure what Chanel found out is they need to, any contractors they use, they need to put the name and their license number. I mean, there's a lot of, they need to be very specific about what they renovated and what they did. But what was wrong with the property before, I think is going to be a big one because, yeah. And they're not exempt sellers just because they did not live in the property. Let's be clear about that. An exempt seller is someone who, let's say I inherit a property, but I have never visited my mom or dad or lived in that house and they passed away and I inherited the property. I don't know anything about it. I've never been there. I've never seen it. But if anyone could reasonably say that I have been there or I have lived in it, then I'm technically not exempt. So just something to keep in mind. On top of all of that, remember that it's going to be extra important moving forward for any of your sellers to disclose everything up front. What we're finding is, and this is because of some other, a couple other transactions, if the seller failed to disclose something, your buyer goes into contract, up front, your buyer goes into contract, they pay for the appraisal, they pay for inspections, and then something is disclosed that they reasonably would not have even submitted the offer on the house for, they can request that the seller reimburse them and probably take them to court, instead of canceling. So let's say I had a leaking window and there is mold in the wall and I haven't sent my seller disclosures yet to the buyer. Buyer pays for inspections, buyer pays for appraisal, right? I have seller 7 days after I accept their offer, to just disclose all of my seller disclosures. They complete all their inspections. They pay for their appraisal. On day 7, I give them that disclosure and I say, hey, there was a leak in my window. There's mold in the wall, but I haven't fixed it. The buyer can cancel, but the seller is probably on the hook for paying for their inspections and appraisal because the buyer reasonably would never have submitted the offer if they would have known that, and they should have disclosed it up front. This is straight from the California Association of Realtors and their legal team. So just when you guys get listings, this is how you win listings, is by telling people this kind of stuff. You win listings by not just buying it. Hey, you don't have to do anything. I'm going to take the pictures. You could sell it for this. It's by telling them, hey, here's how I'm going to protect you. One, let's pay for seller shield. You as the agent can pay for it out of your commission, which is it's the warranty that protects the seller. They'll give them like $20,000 towards legal fees, but they guide them through how to fill out the seller disclosures. And it really comes back to protect you more. And I would include that on every single listing. Seriously, every single listing.
How much does that cost, Cameron?
So for the 3 years, so it protects them for 3 years, right? The statute of limitations is someone can only go after you after 3 years. So Chanel and Nate sold their house August, almost 3 years ago. So coming this August, you all are safe. But 3 years, so 3 years is $300. There's a bigger option for some reason that's like 1,200, but I would maybe do that for a high-end listing. Or if you Google the buyer and you find that they have a history of lawsuits, I'd probably pay for that higher end one, if that makes sense. Like I know an agent, Susan Slevik, who's got this huge, I think it's like a $7 million listing in Loomis. And she found out about this from one of my videos, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that." I'm like, "You should be Googling every buyer who buys that house, because yeah, it's just yeah." Anyway, yeah. So the seller shield, I mean, it's totally worth it, but it also helps protect you as agents, and you only pay it as an agent once you close the deal. So, all right, dang, that was a lot. Okay, the Easter egg hunt. I greatly apologize, everyone. I totally forgot that we do not have bathrooms on the property, and there's no, like, we cannot get bathrooms on the property. So I've already paid for a picnic rental. I've called about every single park in Roseville, Rockland, like the whole area. We have now officially moved it, the Easter egg hunt, and it's not a big deal. Don't worry. Most people, this is going to be way more convenient for them anyway. Plus, most people don't plan it until the week of, and we're going to start sending out emails to everyone who has signed up starting Saturday, because that's officially a week before our Easter egg hunt. It's going to be at Central Park in Roseville. So it's off of Pleasant Grove and what is that, Fairway? It's a huge park. There's going to be soccer games and baseball games, but they have separate parking lots for those areas. And so luckily there is a parking lot just for where we will be. Yes, we still have face painting. We have a bubble station. We do have a sponsor for the face painting. Thank you, David, for referring. What's his name? Rob. Yeah, Rob. He was excited to sponsor the face painting. We are looking for some other sponsors as well, but I think it's going to be a super fun event. Once again, 9 to 11. I would start inviting people now. People haven't even been thinking about Easter until now. Every day I spend 10 minutes inviting people, and I get 3 to 5 new registrations each day that I do it. There were people I went to high school with that I didn't even realize live in Roseville, like down the street from me. And I didn't realize that until I sent them a message on Facebook. And two of them said, actually, we're thinking about moving to Loomis or Auburn for a property with more land. All I did was say, hey, the real estate brokerage I work for is putting on this Easter egg hunt. I'd love for you to attend. Here are some of the details. So anyone have any questions about that?
Can you post that on our
Discord?
Yeah.
I'm going to also post for everyone an email that you can just copy and paste to send to everyone who's signed up so far, as well as like an area picture with a pin on the map of where the parking lot is, so that they know, hey, I go to this parking lot. So there's like 3 of them around that park, for the event. So, yeah. Door knocking, or I wouldn't even call it door knocking, passing out flyers. Adrian and Olga have been doing this, and they've been getting tons of people registering. They've been going out, passing out and just saying, hey, we're local realtors. We're putting on a free Easter egg hunt. It's going to be a lot of fun. Love for you to attend, and hand them a flyer with the QR code. People have no soliciting signs in like 3 different spots on their house, and they'll be standing out there and they say, oh, thanks. Yeah, just put it on my door. And they go and just put it on the door, even though it says no soliciting, because it's something that's free, right? Yes, I get that you're kind of soliciting yourself for business, but it's free. Like, who's going to complain about that? So honestly, that works great. I did the whole class last week on farming your own social media and doing the same thing there. I think both are great things to do. And I think it's going to be an easy way to get free business. I have gotten a lot of leads lately from different platforms, leads like online leads. The most loyal, easy to work with clients are always referrals or people that I have talked to on social media. The most unloyal, people who waste my time the most, are online leads. So if I was all of you, I'd put so much more focus into building relationships with people. And that way, not only do you make 90% of your commission, but until you hit your cap, and then you make 100%, but you also, just the whole process from start to finish is so much easier. So that is the Easter egg hunt. All right, dang, we're flying through. Okay, so I can't remember the exact date, but I think it's actually, I'll pull it up. So we have a financial advisor that's going to be coming talking about some tax strategies, but also, how to prepare for retirement, some investing tips as well. But she's going to be tailoring it specific for self-employed, like realtors and loan officers, self-employed individuals who are on a 1099 basis. Why am I forgetting his name? Well, there's an agent in our office who's becoming a financial advisor, and so he works for her. I think we're doing it April 10th or the 17th. And she'll be coming in person to the office, assuming we have an office by then. But I think it'll be great. So I talked to her. She's going to talk for maybe 15, 20 minutes and then open the floor for any questions. So feel free to bring any questions. I get tired of talking all the time, and so I'd love for someone else to come and share some insight. I'm hoping we'll get a CPA coming in soon to kind of educate us a little bit about certain tax strategies, because I have been getting some clients lately who are high income earners, and they're being told by their CPAs that they need to start buying, they need to buy some rental properties so that they can really save on their taxes, which hint, hint, that is definitely something that a lot of people should be putting out there. Who are the high income earners in our area? According to the EDD for our area of California, it's healthcare workers and some tech. So anyway, the last thing I have is, keep in mind, you guys all have on Lofty, you have access to social studios, because I had someone recently, a client of mine, they were asking about how I post to so many platforms so quickly. And I told them, hey, I have access to a platform that can schedule all of my content to multiple platforms. They told me they spend $300 a month for something that is free to all of you. So just something to keep in mind, that this is a huge tool, the social studios, for all of you to be able to post all kinds of content, schedule it. You should be seeing lots of stuff of mine that come out, usually every Monday, and then we'll have Fridays. This is free to you. You can use it. You don't have to use it, but there are a lot of businesses out there who pay a lot of money for stuff like that. It's free for all of us. So that is it. Anyone have any questions about anything or need help with anything?